The federal government says Twitter has written to it and set up a committee to meet with a microblogging site on the day the ECOWAS court stopped the FG from prosecuting Nigerians for using Twitter. And former House of Reps member from Kano State, Farouk Lawan, popularly known as Mr. Integrity, has been sent to jail for receiving bribe in the popular 2012 fuel subsidy saga. Hello everyone and welcome to Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimberley at Channels Television's global headquarters in Lagos, Nigeria. It's a raining day right here in Nigeria, and the stories that we have for you are pouring in like rainwaters. But let's get to it, everyone, and let's start with the story of Mr. Integrity, who has today been sent to jail. The popular former federal lawmaker and the former chairman of the House of Representatives ad hoc committee on petroleum subsidy regime, Honorable Farouk Lawan, was sentenced to 7 years in prison by a federal high court in Apo, Abuja. The court, presided over by Justice Angela Altaluka, found him guilty on all 3 counts bordering on corruptly obtaining bribe of $500,000 from businessman Femi Oltedela. The sentences 7 years each for counts 1 and 2 and 5 years for count 3 are to run concurrently. The court also ordered the defendant to return $500,000 he collected to the federal government. Mr. Integrity's matter is not our focus tonight. But what is of importance and for our conversation tonight is that we're going to be dissecting the issues on Twitter suspension and what the federal government is doing in that respect, plus the federal government's public works program, which comes under the spotlight tonight. A Minister of the Federal Republic is our guest on the show. But before we get talking to him, let's quickly check out some of your political roundup stories.
The Northern Speakers Forum says it is worried about the spate of insecurity in the country, particularly in the region, which it notes is affecting many communities and affecting socio-economic well-being of the people of the region. Rising from their quarterly meeting in Kaduna State, the forum is asking the state governors of the 19 northern states to reconsider their budget priorities in favor of security of lives and property of the people, which is the essence of good governance. The Senate has received a request for the consideration of the 2021 supplementary budget from President Muhammadu Buhari. In the letter to the upper chamber, President Buhari is requesting the sum of 895.8 billion naira supplementary budget. The proposed budget is intended to equip the military in fighting insurgency, COVID-19 vaccination, and also funding for the management of HIV. The Senate also confirmed the nomination of Major General Farouk Yahya as Chief of Army Staff. The chambers of the National Assembly began to leak profusely this morning, following a heavy downpour in Abuja. Most affected was the foyer of the White House. The leaking roof also spread to the press center in the Senate wing of the nation's apex legislative institution. Cleaners in the National Assembly were deployed to place containers at the leaking spots and scoop water from the floor. The development delayed the sitting of the senators, who resumed today after a one-week break to mark the end of their second legislative year. The leadership of the National Assembly had in 2020 approved 37 billion naira for the renovation of the edifice built about 27 years ago. Some minority tribes in Benue State have appealed to all political parties to zone their governorship tickets in the interest of equity and justice to Benue South to enable it produce its first governor since the creation of the state in 1976. The zone, which comprises of minority tribes like Idoma, Igede, Akweya and Ufia ethnic groups under the aegis of Benue Rebirth Movement, made the call when the chairman of the movement, Air Vice Marshal Monday Morgan, led delegates to a meeting with Governor Samuel Otom, appealing for his support and his Steve brothers to allow a minority-governed Benue State for the first time, as Steve alone has produced 5 democratically elected governors since 1976. And Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State has sworn in the chairman of the Kaduna State Independent Electoral Commission, Mrs. Saratu Diko Audu, with a renewed commitment to ensure that the forthcoming local government election in the state is free and fair. He says that he is not bothered about his party, the All Progressives Congress, losing at the polls so far as the wish of the people is allowed to prevail. But the governor has assured that the electronic voting system used in the 2018 local government election will be improved upon in order to ensure that the next election slated for August this year is even better.
The Ministry of Information, Lai Mohammed, insists that the reason for the suspension of Twitter was because it allowed activities on its platform which promote destabilization of Nigeria, especially separatist groups. He also says that the federal government has resolved that all social media platforms must register as Nigerian companies before they can be allowed to operate in Nigeria and must pay taxes. The minister faced a House of Representatives ad hoc committee in Abuja today, but the federal government has agreed to meet the microblogging site. President Muhammadu Buhari has since approved the composition of the federal government's team to engage with Twitter over the recent suspension of the operations of the microblogging platform in Nigeria. The federal government's team also comprises the Attorney General of the Federation, the Minister of Justice, the Ministers of Communication and Digital Economy, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Works and Housing, and the Minister of State for Labor and Employment, as well as other relevant government agencies. The statement adds that Twitter wrote to President Buhari seeking to engage with the federal government with a view to charting a way forward following the indefinite suspension of its operations in Nigeria. Well, as that information was going out, the ECOWAS Court of Justice in Abuja issued an order restraining the federal government from imposing sanctions or harassing, intimidating, arresting, or prosecuting Twitter and or any other social media service providers, as well as media houses, pending the hearing and determination of a suit challenging the government's suspension of Twitter operations in the country. The suit was filed by the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, and 176 concerned Nigerians, arguing that the suspension of Twitter by the government was illegal. Tonight, we have a member of the federal government's team to meet with Twitter for the negotiation and discussion. The Minister of State for Labor, Mr. Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, he joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for your time tonight. And let's begin with the Twitter conversation before we go into your pet project, if I may call it, the Federal Works Program. Let's begin by asking you, you're a lawyer, and from what the ECOWAS Court has said today, what kind of image do you think this action of federal government is? Because the court said that any interference or it's in violation of human rights of Nigerians. Does it speak well for the government, for those who have criticized it, that the government is very uneasy with voice of dissent?
Thank you, Sheung. I have not seen a copy of the said order from the ECOWAS Court, so I don't know the scope of that order and the application of that order. But from what you read, it's just an interim order restraining or purportedly restraining the federal government from prosecuting those who are Twitter users. But that is not the thrust of the federal government's problem with Twitter. The thrust of the federal government's battle with Twitter, it has nothing to do with the prosecution of Nigerians using Twitter. It's a regulation of the activities of Twitter within Nigeria. So that order you are relying so much on to talk about the image. I don't know what you mean by image of Nigeria. That ECOWAS courts will determine the image of Nigeria, will determine how we run our affairs. I don't think, you addressed it from the right angle. I give you an example. Do you think that it is right for a company to be somewhere in America, or like they call it the Silicon Valley somewhere, and open its platforms within our territory for activities to take place there that determines the peace, unity of Nigeria, and then Nigeria will not act? I don't understand what people mean. They said Twitter has its own rules and that we have to follow its own rules. So you mean that Nigeria should also have its own rules within its territory? Somebody brings his rules to our territory to operate, to make money within our territory, and then we, a sovereign state, should not have our own rules for that person making rules to follow too within our territory. Maybe they are regulating them in China, in Canada, in UK, in America. These are the same people issuing statements against us. No. It's unacceptable. Completely unacceptable.
Minister, the question
Nobody will
I
come and
asked
teach me
is...
constitutional law here about freedom of speech. I've practiced constitutional law and human rights to the highest level. Nobody will come and stand in front of me and teach me what it is.
Honorable Minister, it's interesting that some of us know you. My encounter with you for the first time was at a protest ground as an activist, as a civil rights lawyer. That's how I got to know you. And I'm speaking to you as a senior advocate of Nigeria and as a minister of the Federal Republic. And knowing also that your political party, APC, rode on some of these social media platforms to gain prominence, to seek the votes of Nigerians, and perhaps the argument of Nigerians, what I'm bringing to you, and I'm asking you a question about, based on the judgment of the ECOWAS court, that interference and the actions of the federal government might mean that it's an inhibition of the rights of its citizen. And that's the question I'm asking. And I'm asking that if that kind of ruling comes to play, just a moment, Minister. So if that kind of ruling comes to play, does it give a bad reputation for Nigeria or for its human rights record?
I have not seen anywhere where they say the ECOWAS court is the moral thermometer or barometer to decide whether Nigeria image is bad or not. An interim order, not a final order. Look, Shehu, I don't think we should take these things to a ridiculous extent. Let me answer your question from the two-pronged questions you answer. And I think we should not be blackmailed into a corner and behave as if we are acting against our own principles. First of all, as a political party, APC, can you tell us examples where we try to use social media platforms to set the country ablaze? We are not talking about stifling free speech. People have been using this as a blackmail weapon over and over and over that we rode to power on the back of social media. That is blackmail, because you need to cite specific examples where we use social media to try to undermine the territorial integrity of Nigeria and the peace and unity of Nigeria. Now, we are saying that nobody is going to be stifled. So nobody should blackmail us. And nobody is saying that people should not use social media platforms. Nobody is saying that you should not call government officials to question. Nobody is saying that you should not even abuse us. I don't speak for my colleague, for myself. I like abuse. You can abuse me as you like. But is it right for you to go to social media and for example promote false stories that are untrue, stories that have the capability of setting one region of the country against the other? And then you posting it will not be called to question. The company that made this platform available for people to use will not be called to question. Is that what you are telling me is free speech? You are also saying that some of us marched. You saw me marching on the street. Did we say that suspending Twitter should not allow people to march? So the people just take this thing out of context and try to blackmail us. I'm not going to be trapped into that. I am taking you out of that context and explaining it in a broader context to you. People should still march. People should still protest. I will still join them to protest for just causes. For just causes. But don't tell me that because we are suspending Twitter for promoting hatred within Nigeria, for allowing his platforms for somebody residing in London to tell people to go and burn INEC offices, to go and kill policemen, to go and kill innocent citizens in a part of the country, and you call that free speech? No, it's unacceptable.
All right, Minister, we take a breather, but when we come back, our attention will be on the 774,000 jobs and some of the issues I have trailed it. The Minister of Labour has summoned some banks on the disbursement of these monies. We'll find out what about that after this break, everyone. Join us again. Welcome back, everyone. Let's get back to the conversation with the Honorable Minister for State for Labour, Mr. Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. I would love to dive into the 774,000 job scheme of the federal government, but just a brief one, if you can quickly just touch on this. If you say that suspension was okay because of those who argue that maybe suspension might not be the right thing for the federal government to do, could you tell us which part of the law under Nigerian Constitution provides for the suspension or prosecution of Nigerians using social media? And on the other hand, what will your team be discussing with Twitter when you meet them?
That the trust of this battle with Twitter has nothing to do with prosecution of Nigerians using Twitter. So play my tape, the tape back again. I am not concerned about that. The Attorney General, I'm not the Attorney General of the Federation, and I don't know whether his own statement was taken out of context, whether he was talking about individuals or institutions that have been ordered not to allow Twitter to operate in Nigeria, like MTN and all of that, network providers. So I don't know whether it was taken out of the context. So that is not the issue here. People took it to that ridiculous extent, perhaps, to ridicule the federal government that want to start catching people on the road using Twitter. That is ridicule. We are talking about regulating Twitter and its operations in Nigeria. That is one. Then the second one, you talked about what we'll be discussing with Twitter. We are yet to meet. I just spoke with Lai Mohammed this evening. I think we are going to have a preliminary meeting tomorrow or next to draw up our plan. But Twitter that wrote. So it's not we trying to seek the face of Twitter. Twitter wrote and sought audience with the federal government because they are facing problems all over the world. So they know that it is time for them to be regulated.
Okay, so let's go into the other leg of our conversation tonight, and it's about the 774,000 job scheme by the federal government. Well, it was recently the federal government came up with the Federal Public Works Program that was meant for 774,000 Nigerians. But since the scheme was designed, there have been a series of controversies over the issue. The minister in charge, Mr. Festus Keyamo, is here to clarify some of the issues. First and foremost, Honorable Minister, give us a sense of what is happening. It was first about the controversy and the politics between the NDE and the Minister of Labour under your leadership. Then also it was the start off of the project, which was supposed to start on the 1st of November, I understand, but it didn't start perhaps until January. Then at other time, there was an issue of the disbursement of the monies. And at some point, the beneficiaries are saying they are not getting the money. But you summoned the banks to a meeting. What was that about?
Thank you, Shewon. I'm grateful for this. Let me explain this thoroughly. Now, the program kicked off properly in January. Now, you must understand that this is the first type of social intervention scheme like this that has that kind of large number of persons to be empowered or to be engaged within a very short period of time. So we had to develop a template to execute the program. Again, the instruction of Mr. President had to be carried out to the letter. And the design of the program was that we should engage 1,000 persons per local government. Now, how could we achieve this? This is the most critical part why we had to engage banks to register the people in those local governments. The reason is that if we had said, okay, people should just bring their account numbers, bring the participants together with their existing account numbers, we would have defeated the purpose and the design of the program. Because if you had existing bank accounts and we use the existing bank accounts, it could be possible that the 1,000 persons in one local government in Imo, half of them will be residents in Lagos. They will give us the names. There's no way we would have known whether they are residents in Imo really, or whether they are residents in other parts of the country. So, in other words, the design of the program for the money to get to all the nooks and crannies of the country would have been defeated. So we now said, no, let us engage special banks, which the president approved. And we now said, within your locality, you must report to a local branch for you to be captured afresh and be given a BVN number and a special account number for this SPW. The reason is that it will be difficult to see people traveling from one part of the country to another part of the country to register just to get 20,000. So with that, with using local banks and local branches of the banks to register the people afresh and give them BVNs, we achieved almost 100% the fact that the 1,000 persons would ordinarily be resident in those local governments, which is the design of the program. So for those people questioning why did we not use existing bank account, that is the answer to that. Secondly, we also wanted to be sure that people did not bring 2, 3, 4 accounts, one person. So we insisted that BVN should be used as directed by Mr. President, so that every payment trail, I mean, not under my watch, a former prosecutor for the EFCC, I don't want to come to public office and they run a program to be, fraught with fraud. So I wanted to be sure that it was fraud-free. So I now said, look, as directed by Mr. President, everybody should be paid by BVN. And guess what? That is how we discovered perhaps possible fraud when we wanted to start payment in February, after the first month of the program. We discovered that we saw 5, 6 names on some registers on local government with one BVN. That means it is one person coming under different names. Because once you see one BVN, it belongs to one person. Those accounts belong to one person. And that was why we ordered that stop payments. We went back to the banks. Please verify each and every of these accounts. Make sure you weed out all those accounts with different BVN, with the same BVN numbers. Same names with BVN. And guess what? When that was done, when they call cleaning up the register, some 1,000 persons of local government dropped to 700. Some dropped to 600, some dropped to 800. So we now began to have gaps in the register. So for us, the integrity of this program is more important than just paying money and making people happy. If there is a balance, we will return back to the Federal Treasury after the program. So that is what we are seeing. So when people began to complain, it's either those are people who had problems with the BVN, people who did not know that they had to go back to the banks to register properly for them to be paid. So we now called someone the banks yesterday, all the special, about 7 of them, and we addressed all of these problems. And we brought out a press release today to say people who had different levels of problem, either poor registration, poor BVN, and all of that, to start to pay. But so far, so good. We gave account to the Nigerian people today, how many people we have paid, how much we have paid. We have paid about 7.8 billion so far. We paid about 394,000 persons. So we have achieved about 60% payment of the first tranche. The total amount has not been released to us from the central bank, from the Ministry of Finance, I mean. And these monies are not with the NDE. These monies are not with the minister. The monies are with the central bank. So the monies go straight from the central bank to the accounts of these participants. It doesn't come to anybody.
All right, Minister.
So it is the probity of the process that is making it appear tardy before some people.
All right, because a lot of people would have wondered that you probably needed to have cleared and make sure that all of these things have been sorted before you announce a kickoff, which came about 2 months late anyways. But that aside, 2,000 naira per month, a lot of people will say, oh, it's even less.
No, 20,000.
20,000, apologies. 20,000 is even less than the national minimum wage. Some of the beneficiaries are already
because it's not a regular employment.
Yeah, but, well, the living wage of an average Nigerian is still the same anyways, but they are working every day.
It's not a regular employment. It is also not for the normal working hours.
But
you
Minister,
earn living wage.
Yeah, but Minister, the question is that some of them are complaining.
Approved by the International Labour Organization.
But some of them are complaining. This to you. Yes, I mean, the explanation to Nigerians will be.
So it is not
we give them clarity. Just a moment, Minister. Yes. If you are saying 20,000, some of them are complaining that the bank charges are already being deducted out of the 20,000.
No, we did not authorize. We did not authorize any withdrawal of bank charges. The banks agreed with us to do it free of charge. So those who are withdrawing bank charges are doing it on their own. The only thing we encourage the banks to do for people who live far away from where the bank branches are. There are some local governments in this country that don't have bank branches. We authorize them to give them, we encourage them to give them cards for maybe 500 naira, which is the maximum they can take, so that they can go to cash points within their locality instead of spending 4,000 naira to travel to the next village to withdraw their cash and come back. We said they should give them just 500 naira out of 60,000, to go and withdraw at cash points within their locality.
All right, Minister, we are out of time.
Any other charges we do not.
We're out of time, but in 30 seconds, if you can help me, Minister, because we are totally out of time. For those who are afraid that when you pay these people 20,000 per month for about 6 months or so, and the expiration of the scheme is over or comes, what then happens to them? They go back to unemployment field. So the sustainability is a big question. If you can tackle that in 30 seconds.
Two points. Quickly, there's also a template. There are already templates already for the exit strategy of the program. So many other private people are coming to, they're like off-takers. They are taking people, now they're engaging people from this program to carry out their various programs. So it's like, you know, it's like a recruitment scheme for some other sectors. The second and most important one is that in the last 3-4 weeks, the Federal Executive Council approved, as part of its broader poverty reduction strategy, that this program is going to be an annual or biannual program. And Mr. President graciously approved it. So we are going to see this program like it happened in India, like it happened in China, and some other countries in the past, to be an annual program.
Honorable Minister for Labor and Productivity, Mr. Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, I would love that if you agree to come back on the program, so we have about an hour to have the conversation on this Twitter matter and human rights issue. If you can promise that you will come back, because we didn't have time, we just scratched the surface. Can you make that promise?
It is my forte. Human rights and constitutional law has been my forte. I don't run away from it. I will come and discuss it for 3 hours here if you want.
Thank you so much, Mr. Keyamo, for your time. I appreciate it. And that's our show for today. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.